Hey everybody, my name is Pej. We come on every single Tuesday, right around noontime. I always have special guests in the recovery world. We talk about anything and everything that's recovery related or lack thereof. Welcome to Peji's Recovery Corner. 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Welcome to Peji's Recovery Corner. I am here today with the ever so lovely Frankie Lucas, aka Frank Lucas. We all know who the other Frank Lucas was, right? Anyway, it's good to see you, Frankie.
Good to see you too.
He says can't post comments to Facebook profiles. We're gonna have to upgrade this whole StreamYard thing so that we can actually do this and see it live. But anyway, so I wanted to thank you for you were a last minute guest. I had somebody else scheduled today. He'll be on in a future episode, but I'm just really grateful that you're here today. You're one of my favorite human beings. You may not know this, and it's not because you wear loud shirts, but it's my type of loud shirt. But there's a few. We'll get into everything in a second, but first and foremost, I just want you to know how much I love and adore you. You're a good man. You're a true man of recovery. I've known you a few years now. Where do you reside?
I live in Northern Virginia, about 6 miles outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Falls Church, Virginia.
Falls Church. And who is Frankie Lucas? Let's back up. How old are you?
I am 33 years old. I was born in
33 years young. Okay.
Yes.
You know, it's funny these days. I'm 49 years old. These days, like when I talk to somebody and they tell me that they're in their early 30s, I'm like, oh, you ain't in your late 20s anymore. Then I think, look, motherfucker, these people are almost 20 years younger than you now, Pej. That means your ass is getting old. So, no, it's good. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to, how many years are you sober?
4 years, yeah. October 4th, 2016 is when I finally surrendered and decided to quit fighting.
4 years. And so what did you used to use and drink?
Oh my God. I mean, there's not really anything that I haven't used or haven't drank. You know, it was a rough process. I was a raging alcoholic at a young age. You know, I was arrested every year from 14 to 30.
When did you first start drinking?
12 years old, started drinking heavily at 13 and arrested at 14. And
arrested for what?
Underage possession of alcohol.
Okay.
And I had almost 10 of those by the time I was 18 years old.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you were growing up in another part of Virginia, right?
Well, it's weird because I grew up outside of Boston.
Okay.
My mom went to law school there. She was a police officer before law school. So I had that good structure, but went through a culture shock at 12 years old and moved from Boston to Blacksburg, Virginia. Blacksburg is a beautiful place, but it's a college town, you know,
right.
Virginia Tech and Radford University close by. So, you know, it's didn't really know what to do with myself and started drinking.
Okay, so mom was going to law school. She's a police officer. She was a former police officer, correct? Not anymore.
Not anymore. No.
All right. She's retired now?
Yeah, I mean, she was a cop for 12 years and then went on to law school. Didn't end up practicing law, but you know, that's the type of structure I had. My dad is a retired police officer. He was a cop forever, you know.
And were your parents together, like growing up?
No, it was a divorced household.
Okay.
Divorced household. Lived with my mom.
How old got divorced?
I think they separated when she was pregnant. So
Pregnant?
my whole life. Yeah. So my whole life.
Do you have a relationship with your father?
Somewhat. It's gotten better, I think, since I've been sober.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of, I think resentment and fear there for me for many years. But when I look back on it and look at my own inventory and my part, it was me as an alcoholic at 15 that really stepped away from the relationship. Right. And he's been sober longer than I've been alive. So I would reach out to him, when I was drunk and, things like that. And, it was a dysfunctional relationship. But now, we don't live, that close together, but we do, talk and
communicate.
Yes. So it's beautiful.
And as far as where does your mom live now? She's in Virginia.
Listen to this. My mom moved to Mexico, but yeah, she moved to Mexico in October, and she's going to do 6 months out of the year there. She's retiring, and but yeah,
This
she's.
news to my ears.
I know. I mean,
Wasn't she
she
in Southern Virginia?
yeah, Blacksburg. She still has her house there.
Okay.
But her husband passed away in July from cancer, and she didn't really have any ties there. And I think between the small town and the politics and just the grief of being in the home, she's like, I'm going to Mexico. And she did it. She's been going there for about 10 years. I talked to her, a couple times a week, and she couldn't be happier, man. And that brings me the truest joy to see my mother happy, because that's who I hurt the most, man. She wanted me to get sober since I was 14. So seeing her happy and seeing me sober is a gift in itself. I have her right here. These are some of the most important things in my life. So it's a beautiful thing.
So I want to get into some things about this. This is of great importance. Obviously, we can do a podcast and talk about things that you've been through and your family's been through. But I do want to get to the point why you stand out to me in the recovery community. And we will. There's a few different reasons because of that. We'll talk about them in a minute. But obviously, you started using and drinking at a very young age, right? Was it drugs or was it just alcohol? Or are you traditionally just an alcohol drinker, or were you mixing it with some stuff?
Quick breakdown. I was a raging alcoholic at a young age. I quit drinking when I was 18. I didn't drink from 18 to 25, not a drop. But after I got, after I stopped drinking at 18, I started using other substances, cocaine, opiates. Weed was always, always constant. Right. But then the opiates progressed into IV drug use, and that was the kicker.
So you were actually shooting dope. I don't remember. Maybe.
Oh yeah, I've shot anything and everything, man. Anything there is. Any stuff you're not supposed to shoot, I was shooting.
Like what? Benadryl and shit like that, or what?
I mean, Xanax, Suboxone, Adderall. I got to the
Xanax?
Yeah, it got to the point where I wasn't even smoking crack anymore. I was, breaking it down with vinegar or lemon juice and shooting it.
Okay, so is it safe to ask, or fair to ask, that were you doing this because there was some underlying trauma or issues that you had, or what was it?
I don't know, man. I had people that loved me, but I just really loved to get high, and I loved to drink. And the lifestyle also, man, the lifestyle is addictive. I was always the, drug dealer. I could get you what you wanted. I was that guy, and that is addictive in itself.
Right. There is a certain type of thrill that people get from being able to supply others, especially when it comes to being a drug dealer. Is a certain high that comes along with that. I say that personal experience, nothing to be proud of, because in the end, I mean, if you're like to the point where you become your best customer, then don't get high off your own supply. That's the old saying, right? And
dude, don't get all high off your own supply. I could not figure out for over a decade how to pay a cell phone bill or to pay, like, how to pay rent. Like, I could not figure it out,
Well, so let me ask you that. This is during your active addiction and drinking?
Yeah.
Well, where were you living?
Dude, I could never really keep a roof over my head. I was bouncing between houses. There was points, there were several months when I lived in Florida that after a relationship failed, I was sleeping underneath concrete steps in parking garages or in bathrooms at the Circle K. Okay. I've slept outside in Virginia too, but then when I did have a place, it was mostly couches. I lived on couches for many years.
Okay. Were you in any trap houses or anything like that?
I mean, I guess by definition of the word, yes.
Okay. I've seen your before and after pictures, and they're not pretty. I mean, the pictures are not pretty. So
yeah, man.
You were pretty much, it was evident that you were not well, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, this beautiful smile, I didn't have that when I got sober.
I remember you did some work on your teeth, which was one of the joys of recovery.
It's beautiful.
Now, question for you. So you said that you stopped drinking for a period of time. Why did you stop drinking?
I mean, I think to the core, that's my my drug of choice, oddly enough, man. I mean, I love them all. I love drugs, but alcohol, I knew I was an alcoholic at 15. I related.
So it started with alcohol. Did it end with alcohol too?
Yes. Yeah. Because I got off the drugs when I was 25, and then I was like, well, maybe I can start drinking again, and then I started drinking again, and it was right back to hard liquor, bottom shelf, bottle a day, hard liquor, right out of the bottle, right off the bat. And then once that started, I was like, well,
why'd you get off at 25, off the drugs?
Because I was homeless in Florida, sleeping outside, and I was like, the drugs are the problem, and then I was like, well, I'm not a drug addict anymore. Let me drink again, And then
the drugs are the problem.
And then, as a lot of us know, once we start drinking, all the drugs came back.
Right. So, okay. So then you started drinking again. And obviously, if you have 4 years of sobriety, you got sober at exactly what age?
29.
And why on earth did you get sober? What made you get sober? Where did you go? What did you do? And why?
I mean, the why is that I was going to die, straight up. I was going to die. I was broken enough, and my brother had been sober. He's on my dad's side of the family. He'd been much older than me, and he got me up to Northern Virginia, and always offered that to me. But the tipping point was that, a weird, corny story is that I had a dog for 12 years, my DOG was the only GOD I knew, and I wasn't going to leave him. But after his cancer and I had to put him down, I told my brother, a couple months prior, I said, look, man, when he passes away, I'll begin to live. When he dies, I'll begin to live. And I meant it. I really did want to get sober, but I also selfishly kept that time to continue to use and drink. But when I had to, walk out of the vet's office without him, I knew that it was time. And I took the action. I got up into a program, on a scholarship program. I didn't have a dime to my name. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have anything, but I had the sincere desire to change and the courage enough to ask for help. I didn't want to put my mother through the same things that my grandfather went through with my grandfather, or what my mom went through with her brother, or what some of my best friends' mothers have went through with some of my best friends. That was really, I do it for myself, man, but also I do it for my mother.
So alcoholism and addiction is a little hereditary within your family, perhaps?
Bro, it's on both sides, just stacked,
Okay.
All the men, my mom calls it the Lucas male syndrome, and also on my father's side too, him and my grandfather on that side, it's just bam, 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 bam. So
it's really interesting. When I was going to school for alcohol studies, we would research this stuff, and we would try to see if alcoholism is actually genetic, right? And I remember I had a teacher that said that alcoholism is genetic. He would bring up these examples of like people that had a child, but they couldn't actually raise the child, and the child was put up for adoption. And later on, when the child reunited with his father, he found out that his father was an alcoholic, and the child became a full-blown alcoholic too. So I don't really know if it's hereditary.
Right.
I know in we did a genogram, and so I had to go genogram, however you pronounce that, but I had to go and do a bunch of research and see if addiction was in my bloodline, in my family, right? And generationally in my household, it did skip a generation. My grandfather was an opiate addict, and that was in Iran, in the old country. I had some cousins and all that they all became full-blown opium users, heroin addicts, and that was in the old country. And then me over here, I wasn't well, and I had some other cousins that were fine. They were from a different caliber of life, if you will. But I, obviously, it can definitely run through the family too. What's going on in the background? There's people running around. There's somebody doing laps.
If it was me, I would be crawling, and behind your chair.
There's wires and stuff. Okay. Well, with that said, back to you. You know what you came from,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In a nutshell, I am a raging alcoholic with a crippling drug addiction.
Okay. Very well. All right. Fair enough. With 4 years of some of the most solid sobriety that I've ever seen in somebody. We're on two different sides of the country. Yeah. And I wanted to get into one of the reasons that I wanted you here today is because you stand out to me. I thought to myself, well, our other guests can't make it today, so who stands out to me? And obviously, I scanned my brain real quick, and I thought, well, Frank Lucas, obviously, if he's not working, I'd love to get him on here. I met you, I believe, when you almost had 2 years of sobriety. I had come back east. Go ahead. Why don't you talk about how we met?
Sure. Yeah. So, actually, man, it was a cool experience meeting you because I saw God in it. Because I was working with this nonprofit that I've worked with for several years called Arise and Flourish. We go into middle schools and high schools in Montgomery County, Maryland, and explain the cycle of addiction. Well, this day I was going to be completely by myself, and I was terrified because it usually takes two people. Mm-hmm. And, our president, which is your aunt, Miss Betty, I love her dearly, says, okay, I'll send my nephew there. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, Betty, who are you sending here to do this? I'm like, I don't know. But it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, trust God, everything's going to be okay, right. And then you show up and you're you, and it was just like perfect. But it was one of those things of like turning my will over to God and just trusting the process, and then seeing the beauty and this flower that's been built in this relationship that we have. I truly just see that from God. Our relationship was God-given and built on faith, man. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing because I had the same sentiment for you as you do for me. And I appreciate that.
I remember that day like it was yesterday. I mean, those were the times when you could still walk into a school and go and give a talk to the students without having to worry about, wearing face masks and all the stuff that we've been enduring in the last year with the whole COVID situation. But here's what was really powerful about that. Like, I was already on the West Coast. I was part of a couple of other organizations where we'd go speak in junior high schools and high schools. And that kind of started for me when I was 3 or 4 years sober. And like, I remember when I was in high school many years ago, and you would have like somebody come through to do a talk for the whole school. And I would just be sitting there looking at my legs. I had weed in my pocket. And I just think like, I don't know why this lady's sitting here telling us about how she couldn't do cocaine like a true woman. I'm never going to do coke. I just want to go smoke weed in the parking lot after I get out. And sure enough, like every motel that she talked about hitting later on in her life, I ended up being in all those motels just a few years later after I graduated late from high school. So in going and speaking in high schools here in California, it was like, this was a big deal to me because you never know whose ear you may reach, who you can actually get through to. And this isn't about going in high schools and junior high schools and telling people, don't do drugs, it's not good for you. But most of these kids are already experimenting or have caught wind of somebody that is, and there's that curiosity, and it becomes a phase for some. And then for some, it becomes a full-blown addiction at a very young age, like you or me. Now, I know that when my aunt started the organization in Montgomery County out in Maryland, I had actually come and spoke on a couple of panels with her before. But when I met you that particular day, that day stood out to me because we went to school and watching the way that you spoke to those students, you were so fluid, and I never knew what Fortnite was until that day. Yeah. You used like lingo that would be, that the kids would pick up on, and that was cool, like really, really cool. And you weren't just telling your story, or we weren't just telling our stories, but the way that you broke down the cycle of addiction, it was an educational piece, but it wasn't boring. It was because kids, like most kids, will check out. Addicts will check out. Like when I was in treatment, I didn't want to hear about, like an educational piece of what addiction it consists of. I need visuals. I need stuff that entertains my mind, and the way that you were drawing it on the board, I was just sitting there kind of like, I was enthralled. I was like, this is pretty awesome. Like, this is pretty badass. And to know that you were like one of so many volunteers that had been a part of this organization to make it grow was enlightening. It was like beautiful. And the questions that the kids asked us afterwards, I want you to expand a little bit more on Arise and Flourish. And what have, like, don't worry, like as far as, I'll brag for you because I know that you've done extensive work with that particular organization, but what about going to school? Like, I know during that time you weren't able to drive, so you were usually Ubering and you were working a job, and I believe like you're one of the most humble people that I know that was actually giving of himself and with no expectations or recognition. But what were you doing, and how many schools did you hit, and how many students do you estimate that you were able to reach?
Oh man, at this point, I don't know how many schools I've been to or how many kids I've spoken to, honestly. I mean, because I was going to, a school a week, usually sometimes two, and sometimes we do 3 to 6 classes a day with 30 kids in each class, and we would do a rotation of about 40 different schools, middle schools and high schools, and we would do summer classes too. And I don't know, man. I don't know how many kids I've affected, but you touched on a couple good points, as far as like not preaching to them. That's one of the first things I say is like, I'm not here to tell you drugs are bad or don't do drugs. I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to share my experience, and they explain this cycle of addiction to show you the only 2 ways out of it are, you're going to die or get help. And you may not ever need this, may not ever need it. Most of you won't. But if you do, whether it's a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, this cycle is not going to change. Yeah. And you need to remember to ask for help, or you're going to die. That's the reality of it. And if we can help one kid in each classroom, that one life saved affects so many people, because the trickle effect from an overdose, man, is just unreal. Friends, family, coworkers, employees, whatever it is, there's so many people that it truly affects. So if we can save one kid to know that there's help, that's the goal is good. Right. That the goal is done.
So sometimes these kids would write you letters afterwards, correct?
Yes.
Do you save the letters?
I do have some of them somewhere, actually. And then some of them are in emails. But yeah, I do have some of them. Of course, Miss Betty sends them to me.
When they would write you the letters, they obviously would thank you to come, because you gave of your time to come down and talk to them. But was there anything that any of the students ever said to you that stood out?
Just how much it means to them. I think by talking about it, it helps kids understand it a little better, mostly from the family dynamic. This is a family disease, and it affects everybody. It hurts the people that love us the most, and that includes the children who are in middle school or high school or their friends. So I think by helping them understand, we're also helping the greater good also. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that it is helping kids, and there's been kids that have said, hey man, I have a problem, right. I have this issue. And I've, talked to a couple people.
Personal problem, or like a family member or a friend or something?
The family member happens all the time, but then we do get the ones where the kids, say they do have problems themselves, and it's good to talk to them and, give them resources if they want it. Just like it doesn't matter what age, you can give some, take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
And that's really what we're doing, is just, giving the horse some water.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. So with that said, you were, during that time, when you got sober, where were you living?
Before I got sober?
No, when you got sober, where were you residing? Like
I moved into an Oxford House sober living.
Okay. So Oxford House sober livings are quite typical. There's a lot of them on the East Coast. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Up and down the coast, all the way through New York and DC and all throughout those states, the neighboring states, the DMV.
Yes. What's
an Oxford House? What kind of sober living is that? What is there a structure? What's it all about?
So it's a democratic structure. It's similar. It's not like a halfway house or a men's home. No, it's a house. We pay the rent.
Okay.
The people there. It's usually 8 people, eight and up, depending on how big the house is. Okay. You split the rent. You split the bills. You pay your monthly rent. It's substantially cheaper than, trying to get out on your own. But what it is being surrounded by other people who are sober as well.
So were the people in your Oxford, how long did you live in an Oxford house
for? 4 years.
4 years.
Let me tell you why, man. Because when I got here, I did not know how to live,
Right.
at all. And I take that seriously. My goal was to stay there for a year, 6 months to get my shit together and 6 months to keep it together, and then see where I was at. At that point, it was a very good house, very good house. I had guys that were surrounded in my immediate network. And we had a really good, healthy house. So there wasn't a reason to move, The reason to move would have been my ego saying, you're better than this. You can do better. You can do it on your own.
Right.
But no, I can't. I don't know how to live. Like, I take that seriously. I'm just now learning how to live. I moved out of there in October. And I have a beautiful home now and live with 2 other sober guys, man. But I took my time with it.
I remember. And I love that you did that. You have your own apartment now, correct?
It's a house.
It's a house.
Beautiful, nice ranch style house. In Falls Church, only about a mile away from my other house.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I came out and visited, you were still living in the Oxford house, and
yeah,
I believe I had a rental car, and I picked you up, and we rode around town. Now, what stood out to me with that particular, here's the thing, like, you got sober. You're a young person that got sober at a young age. Anybody to me that gets sober in their 20s, it falls in the category of like the young adult that actually makes a decision to get sober. And I've seen countless amounts of people that have actually made that decision, that my life isn't working for me. I'm young. I don't know how to live. I don't know how to live sober, but I'm going to give it a shot. And you took this thing by the horns. Like, you really, really have been so, like, very serious with your sobriety. You wear it on your sleeve, and you also have a beautiful attitude about life. You're a very positive Peter, not a negative Nancy. Whenever you and I talk, you always you give me just pearls of wisdom. Like, your affirmations are very contagious. I see that with you. Like, you're a good man. And so, like, I remember when I came out and we hung out, we cruised around town. We went to restaurants. We hung out with other young people. As a matter of fact, some of the people that we hung out with, I think there was 1 or 2 of them that I knew from the younger circles out in California that were from that area that had moved back. So, we have a close-knit community. Like, we definitely all vibe together, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. So it was really cool to see the recovery in your area. You would take me to, certain places where you showed me that recovery is alive and well in the DMV, definitely in DC, right? I remember, like, some really, really good places that we'd go and meet up with lots of different people. Definitely in Virginia, it's strong. Like, there's a strong recovery community in Virginia. And then Maryland, it goes without saying, like, there's a ton of it there. And I met some of the most powerful people in recovery that I've ever encountered, that had, like, compelling stories, just beautiful stories that spoke with conviction. They were really, really engulfed in recovery, and to see, being a part of all of this, because you're a lot like me. Like, we're social butterflies. Like, we get to know people, and just hanging out there, I felt like, I could live out here. Like, I could actually live out here and feel really comfortable. I got friends like Frankie. I got friends like Joey. Like, these are some good dudes right here. And to see, like, recovery on a national level, like, I can go to different states. I've made friends with people in different states, but, like, when it comes to Virginia or DC, I know I got you, I got Joey, and I got a few other people too that are out there. And at any given time, I could come out there and we could all hang out and just be together as recovery based people, and so, I love that about you. I love the friendship that you have. I do want to talk real quick about, what are you doing now? Like, are you part of any organization? Are you working with people that are new to recovery? What are you doing now to help others?
Well, helping others for me, honestly, is the key to life. It's my lifeblood. That's the key to life for me, is helping others helps myself. I am still part of a Rise and Flourish, but of course we're not going into schools right now. So I, go back to basics, man. I go to a lot of meetings and I always put myself out there to try and help the new guy. I always have extra literature. I always try to chase that, man, because I can be the light in somebody's darkness, and then, they can they can help me. So it's all, it's just what I do, and that is my life purpose, it's just to help people, man. If I want to die, my mantra, I would say for myself, is to be an honest, sober man of good character. So I have to take the actions every day to be an honest, sober man of good character, and I try to fulfill that on a daily basis. And when I die, I want somebody to say that he was an honest, sober man of good character and he helped a lot of people. That will bring me peace. And I think if that happened today, I could fulfill that. And that is an honor. That's the true gift, man.
I love, and this is all true. I know this about you. You practice altruism with no expectations. You're a good man. You're somebody to look up to. When I grow up, I want to be like you. I learned a lot from you, Frankie. Believe it. I love our friendship. I'm very grateful that we got to have you come out to Peji's Recovery Corner today. I do look forward to future times of having you on the podcast because I think a lot of people can learn a lot from you. And just you keep on being you and never wear regular clothes because
I know, man.
You always got some fancy shirt and you're just a stand-up guy all around. I love you very much. And thank you for coming out to the show today.
Thank you, brother. I love you.
What's your TikTok name?
Bro, TikTok, man. It's so funny, man. Because my tag is at Front Row Frankie.
Okay,
so Front Row Frankie.
Okay. Check him. He's got some of the most entertaining TikToks. Some are recovery based, some are just funny Frankie. And then we got a lot of good stuff coming up here in the future. I got my YouTube page now. I got Pej Intervention. That's my TikTok. I got another TikTok too that was like one where I didn't know what I was doing, but now I know what I'm doing, or I'm starting to learn. I'm learning from guys like you, Frankie.
It's about spreading positivity. That's like my purpose. And like, I would do it on my Facebook and my Instagram stories and people are like, dude, you need a TikTok. And I'm like, nah, man. And then I did it and I love it. It's a great creative outlet and it makes people happy, man. It's bringing joy to myself and others, that's what I want to do, So it's cool, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love it.
Awesome. All right. Signing out. Thanks for being on the show. I'll talk to you. Love you.